Joining us on Bottom Line is Randy Newhouse, CEO of engineering firm S&ME. Randy, thanks for being with us this week.
You're very welcome. My pleasure.
Well, let's start. Tell us a little bit about your professional background and a little bit about the company.
Sure. So I grew up in rural Nebraska and attended a community college there to get an associate degree, and from there went on to the University of Oklahoma and received my Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering. Started my career with S&ME in Knoxville, Tennessee in 1988. Relocated to Raleigh as Executive Vice President in 2005, and then became President and CEO in 2008. So S&ME is an engineering and design firm providing civil, geotechnical, environmental engineering, and construction engineering and inspection services to the built environment, and I would describe that as infrastructure and energy and facilities. We're very proud of our versatility that we bring to our clients to solve their problems. We serve clients really coast to coast. S&ME started in 1973 here in Raleigh, and we've grown to a company of over 1,100 employees in 36 cities and 9 states. Primarily those offices are located in the Southeast and Midwest, but as I said, we do serve some clients from coast to coast.
What are some of the types of projects that are going on right now that you're involved in? Unique things or things that are slightly different or innovative?
You know, a lot of the work now, I'm not sure how innovative it would be, but you know, there's a lot, especially in North Carolina with the highways, there's design builds, you know, projects in various locations. Specifically, I don't have a project in mind, I guess, but I think the innovation comes with some of the design build services that we provide.
Randy, I have a question as to the progression. Obviously, this is a big company now with 1,100 people. Let's go back during the recession years. There were a lot of companies that not only failed, but they severely sort of reorganized themselves to just survive those years, and now they're sort of coming back out of it. Right. Tell me about yours. How did you guys manage that time? Because I'm assuming that you're doing quite well now with all the developments that are going on, not only in the Carolinas, in your region. But how does that company, what does the leadership do, the employees? I mean, how do you come up? It must have been really tough for your industry.
Well, it was tough, and I think a lot of it has to do with sound financial practices. So as a company, I'd say we're pretty conservative from you know, not being over leveraged, not overextending, you know, taking projects that we can take on, and so managing your resources. We did have to do some reduction like a lot of firms did, but I think we kept the majority of our staff, and so you kind of weather through those times by just kind of hunkering down, if you will, and taking care of business. But having a strong balance sheet is the key to that. The firms that probably got in trouble probably over leveraged or not strong financials.
So that is within the culture. That's how S&ME has always been very sort of conservative.
Yes, sir, pretty much.
What are some of the most significant challenges you face now as an employer? Are you finding the workers you need? Are you having difficulty with specialty skills? What sort of challenges there?
Well, workforce is a big one. You know, we are in a pretty good economy, and unemployment is low, and so finding qualified workers really is a challenge. You've got to hire them, you've got to train them, you've got to retain them, and really for us at all levels. So we, in our construction side of our business, we have, you know, entry-level technicians all the way to, you know, senior project managers. And so just maintaining an adequate workforce in a competitive market. The other interesting part of the workforce today is the generational differences in our offices. You know, we've got maybe 4 generations, and there's not a right or wrong, but you do have to accommodate the different generations. Mm-hmm. And so whether that's a challenge, kind of fun sometimes, to be honest. You know, and then I think the third thing associated for me, at least in us as a company, is workforce diversity. You know, finding the diverse workers in the market's kind of tough.
Mm-hmm. Randy, how big is your executive team? Like VP level, executive vice president level?
Yeah, so I have, of course, I'm the CEO, then we have a chief operating officer and a chief financial officer. So that's what I would call the C-suite executives. Mm-hmm. And then below that, we're divided into 6 business units, and then there's a business unit director in each one of those business units.
The reason I ask is, you brought this up about young people, 4 generations of workers working at your firm. Do you have trouble recruiting the millennials? And because they have a different way of looking at things often, and this is a very traditional industry, the engineering.
You know, I don't know that we have trouble recruiting the millennials. You know, they're a very smart group. They're very ambitious. They're going to work different than I worked, you know, as a baby boomer. And so I think keeping them challenged, you know, is the key. And that is tough, in all honesty, because there's some expectations there that they have that you have to, you know, understand and put them in responsible positions, you know, when you can. But it's a bit of a challenge sometimes, there's no doubt.
What does the legislative landscape look like for your business? What do state lawmakers need to do to help your company grow and help you continue to succeed here in North Carolina specifically?
You know, infrastructure spending is an obvious one, right? I mean, let's take transportation, for example. We've funded transportation and highways and bridges, you know, through the gas tax. And that worked for years, but it hasn't worked in a long time. And so what's an ulterior funding source? You know, is that toll roads? Is that vehicle miles traveled? You know, how do you replace the gas tax? Because it's going down. We're more efficient, right? Cars are more efficient. Right. We've got electric cars, and yet the needs are going up in the infrastructure. So, you know, we've got to figure out a way to fund and rebuild our infrastructure.
Yeah, as far as highway construction needs, how do we compare to neighboring states where you guys do business in terms of the level of challenges you see as you drive the roads in the state?
Actually, North Carolina's pretty good. You know, I think North Carolina funding is probably ahead of some of our neighboring states.
What are some of the specific ways you see that the infrastructure, not just of North Carolina, but in all of the places where you do business? We often talk, North Carolina is said to have a $60 billion backlog of transportation projects, but how does that manifest itself? What's the visual thing that you can talk about that would clearly demonstrate the implications of our lack of investment in infrastructure? What are the ways that it's impacting our state?
You know, I think as you look at an economic driver, for example, as an industry or manufacturing or even technology, when they're looking at your state, do you have infrastructure in place to support them? Do you have the rail? Do you have the highways? Do you have good bridges? Do you have the energy and power they need to run their facilities? I think that's going to be important to whether it's in, manufacturing or industrial. You know, can you fulfill their needs? And that may be an unknown, right? How do we know if somebody's looking at North Carolina not coming here? Is that a reason? I don't know. I can't say that it is, but I can say not having it would not be a good thing.
Randy, a great conversation. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.